There are a lot of things I used to struggle with that don't feel like problems at all anymore. Not because life magically got easier, but because I started living more simply. Minimalism changed how I manage my space, how I make choices, and how I find peace. So today I want to share 10 things I no longer struggle with thanks to that shift. The first one is looking outside for what was missing inside. Before I became a minimalist, I used to believe that once my external life finally clicked into place, things would feel better inside. I was never a big shopper and buy a lot of material stuff, but in my mind I still thought that something, a new job, a new routine, more money, would fix the way I felt. I kept thinking, once I get this part of my life sorted, everything else will calm down. But minimalism kind of changed that. It helped me stop expecting physical things or life events to create peace for me. No object, no setup, no future version of my life could actually give me fulfillment and real peace. The noise was internal and I just had to face that. So now, when I feel unsettled, I don't start rearranging things or planning big changes in my life. I ask myself, what's really going on? What am I trying to avoid or control? So minimalism helped me build calm from the inside out. And decluttering was part of that, and it definitely helped. But the real shift wasn't actually that much about stuff. It was about stopping the habit of chasing outer change to fix inner stuff. Number 2, measuring my worth by how much I work. For a long time, I felt more valuable when I was busy. Productivity was like proof that I was doing okay. If I finished a lot, the day felt good. If I didn't, I felt guilty. But what I really wanted wasn't necessarily to be productive. I wanted to feel like I was enough. And minimalism helped a lot in this process. When I removed the noise and pressure, I started to see things more clearly. The more I simplified, the more I noticed how much of my self-worth was tied to doing. Minimalism helped me realize that my value doesn't go up when I do more or disappear when I take a break. So now I care about doing good work, I care about showing up, but I have stopped tying my own identity to my working hours. I measure a good day by how I felt or what I experienced, not just by what I got done. The third thing is losing time to lost things. I was never someone with a messy home, but still things would go missing every now and then. A charger, a pair of socks, some document I thought I put in the right place. Nothing really dramatic, no chaos, but still it was friction. So the turning point for me wasn't about becoming perfectly organized. It was when I started going through my own stuff and I realized how many of these things I didn't actually need, use, or even like that much. Now when I need something, I know exactly where it is because I have done this decluttering and organizing process. I don't waste time checking 5 different drawers or wondering where I last saw it. Everything has a place. Things stay more organized now, almost on their own. It's not about having a perfectly clean space all the time. It's just that the space doesn't demand so much from me anymore because I don't have so much stuff. Caring too much about other people's lives. There was a time when I spent a lot of mental energy thinking about other people's lives, their routines, career moves, the things they were building, the choices that they were making. I wasn't really unhappy with my life, but quietly I was still comparing. Not like in a jealous way, but more in a distracted, overly invested way. After I became a minimalist, this started to shift away little by little, because minimalism taught me that attention is actually a really valuable resource and I was giving away too much of mine. When I simplified what I consumed mentally and emotionally, I had more space to come back to myself. Not because anyone was really toxic in my life, but because I needed clarity. These days I pay more attention to what I am doing, how I feel, and where I am going, because from there it's much easier to live more intentionally and more fully, and also be invested in other people's lives in a much healthier way. Number 5, overthinking even tiny purchases. I've never been someone who buys a lot, but when I did need something, even something small or super basic, I would often spend way too much time deciding. I would spend half an hour comparing 2 types of socks, or dig through 20 websites trying to find the best microphone or something, even though I knew I would probably just buy the cheapest one. I did this because I wanted to be intentional. I didn't want to waste money. But at some point it stopped being thoughtful and just became overthinking. But when I started simplifying my life, this all changed, because I began questioning how much energy I was spending on small decisions. I realized I was wasting time to save just a tiny bit of money, and therefore I wasn't really saving anything at all. Little by little, I started trusting myself more. If something was useful, well made, aligned with my values, and fits really my life, I didn't need to check 5 more options. I could just buy it, use it, and move on. Now I still think about stuff before I buy, actually a lot, but the pressure is really gone because I know what I value, and that makes decisions simpler by default. The next one is the urge to upgrade my home. For a long time, I had this belief that I needed a bigger, better home to feel truly happy and successful. The place I was living was never bad, but it never felt like the home, if you understand what I mean. And this wasn't about luxury or showing off. I just thought that a bigger home would somehow make me feel more settled. I think this is some sort of cultural conditioning, and most of us have this. Sometimes the hardest part isn't even your own expectations, it's explaining to others why you are not chasing more. But yeah, that mindset started to fade when I simplified my life. I started to realize it's not about the size or price of a home, it's about how the space feels, how it supports your rhythm, your values, your calm. So I was able to let go of the idea that more space equals more peace. If anything, I saw that bigger often means more mess, more distractions, more costs. A bigger box doesn't give you more happiness. My space feels light and intentional, even if it's not fancy or new. I have lived here for many years now, and it is enough. It's not about how much space I have, it's about how little stress I feel in it. One day I will still move somewhere else and buy my own place, but this mental shift really changed how I experience home completely. Number 7, feeling behind on social media. I used to carry this pressure to stay updated, not because I was obsessed with social media, or maybe I was a little bit, but mainly because I didn't want to miss something or anything important, or something that everyone else had already seen at least. There was this sense that if I didn't check in regularly, I would fall behind somehow, not just on news or content, but on how people were thinking, what was trending, how people were acting or living, what was something big that someone I know just had done in their lives. Eventually, I decided to simplify all my social media. I unfollowed accounts that didn't feel so necessary. I stopped habits that made me feel rushed or distracted, not necessarily because of this reason, but for all the other reasons. This was just kind of an outcome of that. And after some time, I deleted most of the apps altogether, not because I hated them, but because they no longer added anything meaningful to my life. And now I don't feel behind anymore. If I miss a post, a trend, or a conversation, it's totally fine. I have missed already a lot of those. I spend less time online, but I feel more present in my everyday life. I think that that is way more valuable. I'm not disconnected, but I'm just not constantly plugged in, and life feels a lot better this way. The eighth one is feeling guilty for resting. This is kind of an outcome of the second thing that I mentioned. Even in slow moments when I had nowhere to be and nothing urgent to do, I still heard that background voice saying, you should be doing more. It wasn't pressure from other people. I wasn't trying to prove necessarily anything to anyone, but I had still this built mindset in myself that being productive was the right way to exist and anything else was just being lazy. So because of this mindset, resting was this half resting. I would sit down with a book, but only if it was educational. I would take a break, but keep thinking about my to-do list. Even my downtime had to be productive in some way, planning something useful or working through self-improvement content. I had forgotten how to simply do nothing without guilt. But going deeper into minimalism helped really question that. I began to see rest in a new way. I realized it's not the opposite of growth, it's actually part of it. I don't need to feel exhausted to deserve a break. I don't need to keep pushing just to feel like I am enough or I am doing enough. So now I rest when I need to. I pause when I feel off, and I trust that taking care of my energy is a way of contributing, not avoiding. 9. Thinking my social life is not enough. I would look at people who had big friend groups, full weekends, constant plans, and think, am I missing something? Even if I felt okay, even if I liked my rhythm, there was still this feeling like maybe I was supposed to want or do more when it comes to social area of life. I wasn't unhappy or lonely. I have always had friends. I just kept wondering if I was doing it right. Like there's only one way that you can actually do social life like kind of correctly. But minimalism helped me really realize that I actually didn't need to match some version of enough based on numbers or some noise. Now I don't need constant plans to feel connected. I'm okay with fewer people, fewer conversations, and most importantly, I don't question it anymore, at least in a judging way. My social life fits me, even if I'm pretty much the only minimalist that I know. Learning to stay confident in that, especially when others don't live the same way, has been a whole journey of its own though, so I have something special coming soon that goes deeper into this part of minimalist life. But I'll tell you more about it in upcoming videos. The 10th one is struggling with identity. I think most of us have been there, so we are not fully sure who we are. At least I didn't have a clear sense of what I valued, who I wanted to become, or what actually felt like me. Sometimes I would stop and wonder, is this actually me or just a collection of things I have picked up over time? But one very interesting thing about minimalism is that as I let go of the things in my life, physically, emotionally, socially, and digitally, I began to hear myself more clearly. And I think this is one of the most powerful things about minimalism, that without all the noise and distraction, I could finally notice what felt natural and what didn't. I realized I didn't need to build some perfect identity, I just needed to remove what wasn't mine. Slowly my choices started to feel more aligned, and now I trust what feels right, even if that doesn't always match what others expect. I feel more grounded in my everyday life, and that has helped me feel more like myself. If you like this video, I'm sure you will like this one as well. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to stay kind and meaningful in your own beautiful journey. See you in the next one. Ciao.